Good afternoon, everybody. In this section, I am going to say about the software testing. In this section, fifth testing. Okay, we are going to the software testing, which are nothing but data flow testing. So, first we will know about the data flow testing. How we are defining means first we will define about the variables which are denoted. Okay, we have to notice the variables. So, these variables must be achieve the path. Okay, to achieve the path for the successful path expressions. So, here we will notice the method, what are the methods which are used in the data flow testing. In this data flow testing, it is we will also have a control flow graphs which control the variables which are nothing but if a is greater than 6 and less than 6. So, we have to identify which the variable is less than 6 or greater than 6. We have to identify it. So, for coming to the first definition, we will know. Okay, data flow testing is the type of the structural testing. These structural testing, okay, this name, okay, this name. In this structural testing, where we will define in white box testing. So, we will know, we already know what is the white box testing. What is the white box testing? White box testing which are having the internal structure, right? Internal structure which corresponding with the input and output. So, this structural testing is involved in data flow testing to processing the data. So, to find this text path or to achieve the path, this variable must achieve the path for program for the location of the variables, where the location of the variables which are diagrammatically displayed. Okay, where now we are now what I am explaining, what variables are corresponding to the path or variables are corresponding to the flow chart. So, it is represented as the graphical representation. Okay. So, in this data flow testing will be derived only dependent on the variables. So, they derived only two statements. First statement where the variables are used, okay. Second statements where the variables are refer or define. Okay. So, in this process we will say that a define statement will be corresponded to DEF and used values, which variables which are used values are nothing but USC. Okay. Two statements are derived. In this testing, we will derive about the two statements which are nothing but first statement variable must be used and second variable must be derived and referred. Okay, and data flow testing is nothing but saying about the variables to achieve the path or to process the path regression, which is nothing but to achieve the path which are followed by the methods of control flow graph. Okay, this control flow also involved in the structural testing. This structural testing is nothing but what we are saying in structural testing is derived by the white box testing. Okay, so see that this data flow testing will be a statement form which is assigned by the unique statement, means the statements must not be repeated. So, the first statement is nothing but defined statements which is derived by the DEF X, which the statement contains the definition of X. Each and every value will be derived as a X. Okay. The second statement use, where the statement contains the value of X which is used. Okay, first statement which I already said, they have two statements which are derived. The statement of the variable must be used, statement of the variable must be refer and derived. So, these two statements will be derived in the formula which is nothing but DEF and use USC. Okay. So, the next one, what is the pre-definition of DEF and USC? So, first one we will know about the definition of defined statements. Okay. So, defined statements, suppose all the variables in the path, okay, all the variables in the path are successfully completed, but before successful there must be the variables which are nothing but the global declaration. The variable must be assigned with the global declarations to achieve the path. Okay, they have to be a global declaration to achieve the path, which is nothing but notify where where I is selected to the path of the node I. They have to select the I with the node I. So in this derive, we will only derive where I is equals to, okay, where I is equals to j comma k. Okay, in defined variables, we will assign the variables are global, okay, global declaration which is connected to the path, okay, to achieve where I is noted as the node I. Okay, node I will be denoted with the edges of j comma k. So this I will be path which is connected with the edge of j and k, which is nothing but a derived defined statements. Okay, coming to the next one, we will define about the CUs statements. So CUs, what is the use of CUs? CUs also have variables which are nothing but the global declarations, okay, which is nothing but the to achieve the path. These global declarations of the variable of x will achieve the path of I node. So these C statements will only have the one path of I to achieve the global statements of the path with the node of j. So only single variable arrived. Okay, only single, which the I node is connected to the edge of a jk, but here the global statements will be I is connected to j, where I is in j. Okay, I is in j. Okay, coming to the differences of defined and CUs are nothing but only one statement of the variable will be assigned as the I is equals to j. This is the statement which derived from the variable x will be denoted to the edge of j comma k. Fine. So next one, data flow testing is nothing but I already said about data flow testing is also called as a control flow graph. So control flow graph will say the sequential flow of a data of a particular equation. Okay, so it also have the interruption, okay, interruption of particular program also. Now these another process also we have in this, that is nothing but a refine. I already explained about the define and used. Now we will know about the refer. Refer means what? Refer variables or the anomalous variables are the nothing but the variables which are opposite to each other. So I already said that the variables, okay, variables must be used. Okay, the variables of the variables, statement of the variables must be derived. The statements of the variable must be differ. Okay, so I already said different ways of processing I already said. But in this refer and anomalous, the variables of the statements will be different to each other. So first we will know first point, a variable is defined but not used. Once it is defined, it not be used. Once it is used, it must not be refer. Once it is refer, it must be not defined. So they are the totally opposite to each other. Okay, so see, the variable is defined but not is used or refer. The variable is used but not be defined. The variable is twice the use. Okay, we have unique variables will be not assigned. Okay, so in these statements we will only refer, okay, opposite candidates. So the variables will be defined but not used. If it is used, it will not define. If it is defined, it will not be a multiple access. Now we will know about the control flow graph of a small example. Suppose we will read two variables are nothing but x comma y. Suppose if we have an equation like x greater than y, right? So x greater than y, the second line, the third line, if x is greater than y, it will represent as x plus 1, right? So here we will explain x plus 1, where third line, if it is greater than, if it is less than, x is less than y, we will explain about that is x minus 1, okay, if or print a, Okay, now what we are saying means we are reading the variables of x and y. If it is a positive value, we will print that positive value. If it is negative, we will be a less than value. So if it no one, it is no and no, which it will not present a or a b. We will present as a additional value like a print a. Okay. So I already I have already shown you one diagram, okay, one explanation where x is greater than, right? So graphically I am explaining. So 5 is a, okay. These 2 and 3 is nothing but x axis, that 2 and 3 is the y axis. Okay, now we will solve the problem of control flow graph, which is nothing but a data flow coming from the data flow testing. Suppose we will have 3 variables, right? What are the variables? X variable, y variable. At last, previous equation we have derived a value, right? So we will derive about a value. So x value, y value, a value, 3 values are there. Now we have to derive about defined variables. Okay, I already said that defined variables and used variables are main statements which are involved in data flow testing, right? So next we will derive about the used variables. First we will know about x value. So what is the defined value? So 2 and 3 are the used values by the x. But what are the defined values? 1. Okay, x which is divide value is 1. Okay, used value means which are connected to the each edges, means x, j comma k I said. So 2 comma 3. Now we will see about the y axis. In y axis, which is derived statement? 1. What is the used statement? 2 and 4. Coming to the a, which is the used statements, which are nothing but derived statements, are 2 and 3. Coming to the used statements, 5. So we have prepared the small data set, okay, which is nothing but it is to form a derived variables and used variables. So now you will see the control flow graph, how is sequentially formed by 1 to 5. So it also acts, it also represented as the variables of x axis and y axis and a axis. We have also derived the derived variables and the used variables. It will be declared predefined data of a particular flow chart. Now what are the variables? So I already explained through by seeing the diagram. You have to say what are the derived variables, what are the used variables. So these are from x axis. We have noticed that one is the defined variables and 2, 3 are used variables, right? Here y axis, 1 is derived variables, okay, defined variables. 2, 4 is used variables. Coming to the a, T4 is defined variables and 5 is used variables. So these are the variables which are assigned the values which are derived and used variables. So these are the key points or key statements which is used to derive the data flow testing. So another term, I already said that what is the structural testing? Structural testing have a path which is access all the variables in the path, right? So these data flow testing is also called as a white box testing. Okay, these white box testing have the internal structures. Okay, internal structure of the flow of a data. So this is nothing but a data flow testing is the white box testing, which is nothing but a flow of a variables which are referred. Okay, they are associated to each other to communicate, associate to each other for the variables for the testing. Okay, for the variables of testing. We will see a small example. Okay, we will see a control flow graph, a small example. First we will know about the control flow graph. Control flow graph is nothing but a graphical representation of the data which is presented by the variables. What the variables are presented, we will graphically explain by the control flow graph. Okay, this is a small example, okay, where age, okay, age is greater than 18. So if it is greater than 18, it is maybe a female. If it is greater less than 18, it may be a small difference. It will be not presented as a data. Okay, it may, if greater than 18, it may be a female. It may, or less than means it may be a male. So the small definitions which are represented, see gender. Okay, first we will derive about small example of control flow graph. I am taking the age as an example. So age is greater than 18, less than 18. So two functions I have. So for in first function we am deriving the age is greater than 18, which is nothing but if its gender is yes, you will be a woman. If its gender is no, you will be a man. Coming to the young one, if it is less than 18, it must be a young. So I have to print like this. So the control flow graph will say that if we can also say that in age we can also say as A greater than B. If A is greater than, I can say it is presented as a particular college. If it is not college, it can say as a particular home. Okay, we can also have a multiple options. Okay, we can also say multiple options to have to say the small examples of control flow graph. So by this the control flow graph we will say the equation where the code first I am giving if age is greater than 18. So I close the brackets. So if gender is female, if greater than, it will be a female. If it is not female, it will be a male. So next one you have to print the code what we have done, whether it is male or female, you have to print the next line so it can be accessed the statement. Fine. So main advantages of data flow testing. What is the main flow of a data flow testing is nothing but first the statement of the variables must be defined, not be derived. Okay. So what is used or derived or what are the things which are these used or defined or the refer statements, all are the global declarations, all are the global declarations of the variables to achieve the path. Okay, to achieve the path. Now what are the advantages means? First we will say the data flow testing will find out the variables where the which state they have to be not repeated. So that is only advantages. First step in variable must be used but not be defined. Okay, used but not be defined. If it is defined, it must not be used. Okay, if it is defined, it not be used. Third one, if it is defined, it not be repeated multiple times before it used. Third time, it have additional advantages which is nothing but deallocation the data of a variable. Deallocation of the data means allocating the data with multiple times or internally they are doing. So disadvantage is nothing but it takes too much time, okay, and it is a costly project. Okay, particular process, and it is also overall data flow testing is a graphical representation. By seeing the variables we have to draw the diagram, right? So these all depending upon only programming language. Okay, this is the main disadvantage. If it is programming or language only, we can draw the diagram with a graphical way, which is nothing but the flow graphs, okay, which is represented in the data flow testing. This overall testings, what are the advantages means? First point, if it is used, it must be not derived. If it is derived, it not be used. If it is have used, it must not be a multiple access. Coming to the disadvantages, what is disadvantage means it takes more time and we have to know about the programming language. So first of all, I am saying about the data flow testing in 6th section, which is nothing but about the variables assigning the path. Okay, so these variables of assigning path is coming from the statements of variables of two statements which is used and derived and refer. In mainly I am saying about the refer statements or anomalous statements. These statements will be not repeated, or it will be totally opposite to each other. Okay, like advantages commonly taken in this statement. Okay, next I am saying about the small example I took, where age is greater than 18. If it is greater than, we will print it is a female. If it is not, it will be a man. So finally we have to know whether it is male or female, we have to know. Next one, a small example I also took, where it is nothing a control flow graph. Okay, control flow graph came from the white box testing, which is nothing but a structural testing. So in this testing, I am derived about the particular path of the flow of a graph, which is nothing but if it x and y variables, where x will be denoted as a positive value and y will be denoted as a negative value. Y means x is greater than y. So we have to print any one variable to access the data of a path. Fine. So this is the small explanation which is used in the statements of the variables in data flow testing. Okay, this is the data flow testing which are involved in the graphical representation by the control flow graph of a structural data. Okay, thank you.